India is today the 5th largest bioeconomy in the world and also the largest center for life sciences GCCs, and is heading towards a market of over $600 billion. But India has evolved from being the 2000s era of cost efficiency from today becoming a 2026 era that looks at value and leadership, and that means that we're no longer just the back office, but we are today the brain for the world. To discuss more on this and what the life sciences sector presents and how the life sciences GCCs are mirroring the strategy of their global headquarters, I'm joined by Mr. Purav Gandhi, who's the CEO and founder of Healthark, Chandani Palshetkar, CSE GBS Head of Strategy, Global Hub and Services for Opella, Sanjay Patel, SVP and Global Head of Innovation, Capability Solutions and Services for Takeda, Switzerland, and Syed, Naveed, the Executive Officer and Chief Technology Officer for Olympus Corporation, Japan. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and Chandani, for speaking to CNBC TV 18. Let's start off by talking about the India opportunity, because we're here at the BioAsia Summit in Hyderabad. Hyderabad also has been a huge hub for GCCs over here in India. Syed, I wanted to come to you first. You've spent about 20 years now building GCCs, and you've seen that evolution that I was talking about, from being a cost-effective operation model to where we are today. And you also launched an R&D center in Hyderabad. So, help us understand, as someone who's very bullish on the Indian ecosystem, what is it about Hyderabad and the cluster that Hyderabad is evolving that presents a great opportunity?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, as you rightly mentioned, the last 15, 20 years, there's been a clear evolution in this GCCs in India, right? What started out as like mostly a cost arbitrage centers has clearly evolved from a cost arbitrage, outsourcing, to a capability enhancement, to now we're looking at more like a strategic centers,
right,
which are part of the entire world ecosystem, innovation ecosystem. So that's why I like what you said. This is no longer the ecosystem which is based on, now it's the brains of the world, right?
Right.
So that's what I think it is. Now, coming to Hyderabad, we evaluated many different cities. And what we liked about Hyderabad was the ecosystem that exists here, right? From the talent availability through this, a lot of institutes, but also the global medtech and the health tech companies. I think that was a real attraction for us. But also the infrastructure,
right?
With all the public infrastructure in Hyderabad, it is helping us establish a strong foothold, wherein we can have the center in Hyderabad as a big chunk of our innovation dollars will be coming to Hyderabad. So I think that's where we really thought this was a good idea for us to have here.
Right.
Yeah.
You spoke about talent, and Sanjay, I want to come back to you. You've had a center in Bangalore that, you've scaled quite aggressively as well. So, not just Hyderabad, though, if you talk about India as an opportunity, for you, where do you see, or rather, how do you see India presenting that opportunity for a company like yours, to really be the brain, or rather sort of mirror the global strategy?
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity to be here. As a company, Takeda, our purpose is to build better, provide better health for people and a brighter future for the world. And when we looked at our innovation capability journey 2 years ago in India, we also went through a rigorous kind of location assessment, and we chose to be in Bangalore, given the talent kind of landscape available. And our focus initially was primarily on building capabilities around data, digital, and technology,
right,
which as we know, there's a large population of talent available in that sector, and also the ecosystem that's available that complements the scale that we were looking at growing. And I think in India, if I look at maybe going back a few years, where a lot of the companies, as Syed was saying, was primarily looking at this as a efficiency kind of play. Now it's become more of a innovation play.
Right.
And India now offers innovation at scale with the talent and the ecosystem and the support that you get from the state governments through the policies that they're providing. So I think it's now really thriving, and there's the image of back office and support functions to now become really enterprise value creating engines,
right,
is now taking center stage. So I think that's the key value proposition for me that India now offers.
Right. Even based on both your responses, again, I think the larger thing that is emerging out of this is talent that India presents. You know, Purav, you've been a very integral part of this ecosystem where you're helping companies, you know, set up. Help us understand, basis your experience working with a lot of global companies, you know, what is the kind of depth of talent that we're really talking about in Hyderabad, in India overall, and how have you seen this GCC ecosystem evolve over the years?
Sure. See, I have spent last 16 years of my career now talking about the India story, and I have seen the story evolve so much. The story started with why India, now to how to gain benefits out of India, right? Yeah. So it's not just talent. Talent is of course a given, but now there is infrastructure, now there is specialization. So if you look at the GCC ecosystem in India, initially cost was the only play, right? And you could find a cost arbitrage anywhere in India, but now it's also about specialization. So you go to Bangalore if you're looking for digital capabilities. You come to Hyderabad as a cluster if you are looking for life sciences depth. You go to Delhi if you are looking for analytics or strategy. You go to Mumbai for commercial path. So now there are specific clusters coming within India, and it's not just India as a single location, and that speaks to the maturity of the ecosystem that we are building.
Right.
Also, the infrastructure is so solid and robust that all these things are connected, and a company can afford to be in a more than one location and gain the benefits out of India. So I think in that sense, India is truly evolved, and we still believe that we are scratching the surface. There is a lot more that India will offer to companies as we look at the next decade.
Right. Interesting. And, you know, you spoke about the specialized offerings that India has to bring about, and that's sort of the theme I wanted to come to next. You know, Chandani, you again it's a very different operations that we're talking about, as compared to the rest of the panelists here. As an OTC player, you know, you're not really looking at tech, R&D, and generally that's what people, we think about when we talk about GCCs, right? So for you as a company, how are you really looking at, you know, consumer-facing, specialized capabilities? How are you developing that in India, and what role is India playing for you?
Yeah, so first let me answer it as a consumer. So let me put myself in a bit of, you know, I have the advantage to talk about the full value chain from manufacturing to consumer. So let's take health, okay? Let's take all of us today are super cautious about what we are doing on our health. It's no longer it's no longer a trend. It's something that we are all serious about, right? So we are counting the amount of proteins we are having, steps that we count. We're doing everything around ensuring health in our hands, okay? Which is also what we as a company stand for, health in our hands. Even in my own personal life, I've been taking health really seriously. And as a consumer, let's say that I've been like recently playing a lot of sports or racket sports, and recently I came across a health drink which says sugar free. So obviously it caught my attention, and I went and picked up the drink from the fridge. And when I see the bottle and I see sugar free, I see the claim, okay, which is obviously backed up by science. Then I flip the bottle, and then I see the macrons on how much calcium, potassium, calories. I also see a QR code which helps me find out if I want to ask more about the product, or maybe if there's a quality complaint, you have a QR code there. I also see access, you know, which is like you can buy this product off Amazon or Flipkart or one of the partners that you can buy the product. So what did it teach me in that, that 30 seconds? It taught me from moving from a product to really the access, the full spectrum of a bottle. Now, if you see where is all this getting built today, it is from a GCC. Right. So let's take, if I take into consideration the claim. So we have science teams here who are, the medical team approving the claims, regulatory team getting it approved from the governments for making marketing possible. We have the bottle design, which is kind of the content building to the marketing of the thing is getting done here. Consumer behavior, like me getting it on my social media next as soon as I buy the bottle, on how is the next precision marketing that comes into is getting developed here. You talk about where to get it, the access part, consumer e-commerce channels is getting built here. You talk about digital capabilities, it's all getting built here. So it is, as a consumer, everything around that bottle, if I go back, the powerhouse where it's getting built is the GCC. So for me, this is where the future lies.
Right. That's really interesting, and in a very slightly different take on, you know, what GCC is doing. And I think on a consumer front, that makes it a lot clearer and extremely interesting as well. But, you know, also talking about the future, this is really different before when you looked at a bottle versus what you look at now in terms of all the features that you spoke about. But if I have to segue a little away from that and we'll talk about the future, we cannot do it without talking about artificial intelligence. And that's really what's taking over the world right now. We have such a huge summit happening in India as we speak as well. You know, I wanted to come to you, Sanjay. You know, you've also been looking at AI capabilities, and one conversation that's happening all over the world right now is AI going to come and take our jobs? You know, and I believe your belief is that it's not an and or solution. So as you look at building AI capabilities for your company, and as you look at scaling your GCC, meanwhile, how are you looking at embedding sort of artificial intelligence where you're using it to rather enhance capabilities and not necessarily just replace jobs?
Yeah, so when it comes to AI, maybe I'll kind of start with some basic kind of principles that I think everyone should be kind of mindful of, and I'm sure most of my peers are. One, when we look at AI, there's three key components. One is data.
Yeah.
So making sure that data, good quality data, trusted data, governed data is really important. Second, process. And one of the lessons learned from, even from our own organization, from many other companies that I've seen, is making sure that when we apply AI, it's not applied on top of a legacy process, but you have to reimagine the process and apply AI and embed AI to be more AI native. And third is people, which is where your question was kind of targeted towards. So people, for me, when it comes to AI, some AI will, or agentics, whatever we call it, will either augment the role, it may complement how the person is performing the task, and in some cases it may replace how the role is being performed, but will create new roles, which we are seeing, because not implementing just AI and agentics in a process on its own will not kind of deliver the value that you're seeking. It will also require a complementary set of new capabilities that I think even in India it's not available at scale, and I think something that we need to really focus on. So for example, once you build an AI, like you need someone to be proficient in training the context.
Correct.
Right? Because the more context it knows, the data it's accessing, what LLM it's accessing, it's really important for it to know that it's giving the right output at the end of the day. It may require adoption. Teams that can help adopt, or the teams that are applying agentics or AI, how do they adopt that in their day-to-day kind of work so it actually does show the value? I think in our personal lives, we're all using some form of AI or like tools, which we know how it complements our work, and I think the same is going to apply in the workforce as we embed AI in processes, workflows, as well as train and retrain colleagues in our organization to better utilize and use that as like a companion versus a threat.
Right. I think that's a great point that you ended on, that, we use it as a companion and rather as a threat. And, the other aspects that he spoke about, he spoke about people, but the other aspect was, how do you sort of build, you don't build new things, but you go to the, you don't build it on top of legacy, but you go and reimagine legacy. How are you looking at artificial intelligence when it comes to R&D? How are you sort of embedding that into your processes?
Very good question. I mean, look, and I like what you said. We are reimagining the legacy. And I can talk to you from Olympus, right?
Yeah.
Olympus is a 100-year-old Japanese company, right? 100-year-old. We invented the first endoscope.
Right.
The first endoscope. It was a combination of an engineer and a doctor traveling on a train. And he said, hey, you make the best cameras in 1950. And they said, can you give us something that I can look inside the body? And this guy went and built this. And for the last 50 years, we have the market leadership in endoscopes, right? Think about it. 50 years of legacy, of innovations, a lot of different things besides endoscopes. Fast forward to now, this is where I think there's an opportunity now to reimagine, like you said, the legacy of our traditional R&D devices, technologies, and processes, and apply AI. And we are doing that in Olympus. One of the things we are doing is many things, but one, is on using AI and data and so on and so forth for helping the clinicians. That we know. I mean, how can they do better healthcare, better patient care through AI solutions? Now, in R&D, we can use AI to help a couple of things. One, we can augment, like you said, what the engineers are doing, help them to be more productive and more effective. Now, you know about the software, where most of the coding is being, AI is being used. But also in a traditional medtech process, like a new development, new product development, there's a lot of documentation. That can AI can help in expediting. And our intent is to fast forward that, expedite that time to market. Right? So that's where the opportunity exists, I believe.
Right. And in that sense, then, what role does using talent to enhance it rather than replace it for you?
Oh, 100%. I don't think it's about AI is going to be killing jobs.
Yeah.
It's augmenting,
Yeah.
but also I think the threat is not from AI, we're losing jobs. It's what I call skill stagnation.
Correct.
Meaning, if you think I'm a mechanical engineer or a software engineer from last 40 years and I'm going to continue doing the same thing, that's where the threat is. How can we augment, how can we enhance our skills and embrace this as a companion, is the right word. I think that's where the thing is. It's not about changing the roles and so on and so forth. It's about enhancing.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we are training the engineers, not just the software engineers, but everybody else to use this as a common tool.
I think one of the things that have been spoken about a lot has been the opportunity really in healthcare. And healthcare it's been one of those sectors where even to the end consumer, the access, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So, generally, do you gentlemen and, Chandani, do you guys believe that AI can really play that role? I mean, this is just an open question. Anyone's free to take it. That AI can really play that role in bringing better access of healthcare, making it more cost efficient? Yeah? What's the kind of work that's happening?
I can draw a similar between the GCCs and AI. So, like Olympus is from Japan. Takeda has a strong presence in Japan. There are some companies from Switzerland, France. Yeah. Every ecosystem had a different strength. Yeah. But now, GCCs in India create a level playing field where everyone can access the same talent pool, same cost arbitrage, and create healthcare access for the world. AI is very similar. You don't always need to have a 10,000 people army or a 100,000 people army. Any small organization or a large organization now has access to the same intelligence, and it's about how well you use that intelligence. So once you embrace AI, you can get your regulatory process done faster, you can improve your supply chain, you can improve your consumer education. There are so many things you can do with a very low entry barrier, which is available to everyone. And that is what I believe different companies, all our peers and clients have been doing now. So it's not a question of where all AI is applicable. It's applicable probably everywhere. It's how well you reimagine the processes to leverage AI.
Correct, correct. Very interesting conversation, as we go forward. Let's look at probably where India or the opportunity that India is going to present to us in the next couple of years. You handle 4 GCCs across the globe. I wanted to understand in terms of India, how do you see India placed on the global scale? What is the opportunity really that India is presenting? You spoke about a lot of things that you are building within from India. And so, what's the opportunity? What really is the advantage that India as a market is bringing for you?
Yeah, so I basically lead 4 centers globally. So I'll try to first answer the others before I move to India, because obviously before we set up, we do a location analysis. And we started with Kuala Lumpur. So the education system in Kuala Lumpur ensures that you have 1 local language, but 2 compulsory international languages to be studied. So what happens is that every individual knows 3 languages, and this makes them we have to keep Kuala Lumpur if you have language to be catered. So that's where it started. When you have languages, it has to be Kuala Lumpur. Then you come to Bogota, the other spectrum of the world. We always were very conscious that we want to serve Americas from the same time zone. So that's why we had Bogota, and Bogota has also great amount of young talent that is available and super educated and very fast growing and building as an industry. Coming to Budapest, it's the same time zone as our headquarters, and to be serving in the same time zone is very important. And in Europe, Budapest is kind of the epicenter of GCCs.
Okay.
And coming to India, I believe there is a threefold advantage. The first advantage for India is that we are a fast-growing GDP nation. So obviously there is growth everywhere. The second part of India, which is really catching, is in terms of young population who's earning. So there is both a demand for jobs and also supply for jobs. And we are building it through the network of GCCs. And the third most important fact is that we have very, very good education available in India. So which is why we have the highest number of engineers and doctors. And when we have doctors, it kind of helps the life science industry, because this is where we need the best next medicine coming in, and the doctors are available in India. And from a science perspective, this is crucial. And from the engineers, obviously, which help us build all the data analytics, and the future in terms of innovation is also from India. So India has a threefold advantage according to me.
Right. Nicely put, threefold advantage. Purav, I wanted to come to you in closing on that then how do you, because you've worked with so many companies that are setting up GCCs, you've seen this ecosystem evolve, what do you believe enterprises and, more importantly, policymakers really need to do to ensure this momentum that India has of being a leader in healthcare GCCs, in life sciences, and being a huge pharmaceutical healthcare hub? We're really able to leverage that advantage that we have and keep it going.
For companies that we work with as well as we speak to, now it's become a natural choice to be in India. And with so many companies choosing to be in India, it's not a question of why India. So now they have to figure out how to get India right to get maximum value. And at Healthark, we help companies navigate India, quote unquote. And as we do that, what we're realizing is that if we have to continue this growth journey, there's more and more that has to be done. Can't be done by any stakeholder in a standalone manner. So as an industry, we all will have to continue to build depth in terms of our talent and ecosystem. We'll have to train next generation of leaders to ensure that the scale happens. From a policymaker and government perspective, they have to ensure that ease of doing business does not go away for organizations. In fact, it keeps getting better as we look at a more digital global world. Lastly, we'll have to have the infrastructure to support that. And initially, if you look at the GCC ecosystem, it was tiered around 4 or 5 metro cities. But now, as it was once said that there should be 100 mega cities in India, probably there should be 20 or 25 GCC destinations, because the scale that we are looking to serve from India might not be possible from 4 or 5 cities, but maybe 20 cities will be able to do a better job. And I think that's what policymakers will have to look at from a holistic perspective.
Right. In conclusion, wonderful talent is one big area that India has an advantage in, and I think further skilling and keeping up with that really helps. You also spoke about how we need to do more in terms of infrastructure. There is already so much of a push coming in from the government in terms of infrastructure, in terms of R&D also, and then also, developing more GCCs. So clearly, India opportunity is very bright, and I think this leadership will continue, and I'm sure all of you agree. But before I close, I just wanted to do a small little fun thing for us to close. A few rapid fire questions, and I want you to answer one word, maybe a couple of words, like a short phrase. So I'll start with you, What is one myth about GCC, Syed, that you believe that needs to be busted in 2026? GCCs in India.
GCCs in India. The myth that this is a low-cost cost arbitrage play. That's the myth. It's not just about cost arbitrage, it's about innovation.
Right.
It's about the whole ecosystem here.
Right. One thing that India offers to make it a better choice than most global locations. Who wants to take that?
I think is being outcome obsessed. In India, people are super outcome obsessed. So
I love that. I love that. And then one thing that excites you the most about the life sciences as a space in India?
I think we have the depth, the inclination for science to serve the world.
Right. And Sanjay, if you can complete the sentence for me. India is no longer just a service hub. It is the world's...
It's a place that offers digital fluency with scientifically grounded talent and global connection.
Wow. Digital fluency, scientifically grounded talent and
global connection.
And global connections. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for speaking to CNBC TV 18. It's been a very interesting conversation talking about talent, about AI, about GCCs and the opportunity that Hyderabad, Bangalore and India presents for the life sciences sector. Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.